rationalism of the likes of Descartes and simultaneous opposition to the main countervailing epistemology, empiricism, preferring fideism. In terms of God, Descartes and Pascal disagreed. Pascal wrote that I cannot forgive Descartes. In all his philosophy he would have been quite willing to dispense with God, but he couldn't avoid letting him put the world in motion. Afterwards he didn't need God anymore. He opposed the rationalism of people like Descartes as applied to the existence of a God, preferring faith as reason can decide nothing here. For Pascal the nature of God was such that such proofs cannot reveal God. Humans are in darkness and estranged from God because he has hidden himself from their knowledge. He cared above all about the philosophy of religion. Pascalian theology has grown out of his perspective that humans are, according to Wood, born into a duplicitous world that shapes us into duplicitous subjects, and so we find it easy to reject God continually and deceive ourselves about our own sinfulness. Philosophy of mathematics. Pascal's major contribution to the philosophy of mathematics came with his De l'Esprit géométrique, of the geometrical spirit, originally written as a preface to a geometry textbook for one of the famous petites écoles de Port-Royal, little schools of Port-Royal. The work was unpublished until over a century after his death. Here, Pascal looked into the issue of discovering truths, arguing that the ideal of such a method would be to found all propositions on already established truths. At the same time, however, he claimed this was impossible because such established truths would require other truths to back them up. First principles, therefore, cannot be reached. Based on this, Pascal argued that the procedure used in geometry was as perfect as possible, with certain principles assumed and other propositions developed from them. Nevertheless, there was no way to know the assumed principles to be true. Pascal also used the l'esprit géométrique to develop a theory of definition. He distinguished between definitions which are conventional labels defined by the writer and definitions which are within the language and understood by everyone because they naturally designate their referent. The second type would be characteristic of the philosophy of essentialism. Pascal claimed that only definitions of the first type were important to science and mathematics, arguing that those fields should adopt the philosophy of formalism as formulated by Descartes. In De l'art de persuader, on the art of persuasion, Pascal looked deeper into geometry's axiomatic method, specifically the question of how people come to be convinced of the axioms upon which later conclusions are based. Pascal agreed with Montaigne that achieving certainty in these axioms and conclusions through human methods is impossible. He asserted that these principles can be grasped only through intuition, and that this fact underscored the necessity for submission to God in searching out truths. Pensées. Main article. Pensées. Man is only a reed, the weakest in nature, but he is a thinking reed. Blaise Pascal, Pensées number 200. Pascal's most influential theological work, referred to posthumously as the Pensées, Thoughts, is widely considered to be a masterpiece, and a landmark in French prose. When commenting on one particular section, Thought 72, Sainte-Beuve praised it as the finest pages in the French language. Will Durand hailed the Pensées as the most eloquent book in French prose. The Pensées was not completed before his death. It was to have been a sustained and coherent examination and defense of the Christian faith, with the original title Apologie de la religion chrétienne, Defense of the Christian Religion. The first version of the numerous scraps of paper found after his death appeared in print as a book in 1669 titled Pensées de M. Pascal sur la religion, et sur quelques autres sujets, Thoughts of M. Pascal on religion, and on some other subjects, and soon thereafter became a classic. One of the apology's main strategies was to use the contradictory philosophies of Pyrrhonism and Stoicism, personalized by Montin on one hand, and Epictetus on the other, in order to bring the unbeliever to such despair and confusion that he would embrace God. Last Works and Death. T.S. Eliot described him during this phase of his life as a man of the world among ascetics, and an ascetic among men of the world. Pascal's ascetic lifestyle derived from a belief that it was natural and necessary for a person to suffer. In 1659, Pascal fell seriously ill. During his last years, he frequently tried to reject the ministrations of his doctors, saying, "Don't pity me, sickness is the natural state of Christians, because in it we are, as we should always be, in the suffering of evils, in the deprivation of all the goods and pleasures of the senses, free from all the passions that work throughout the course of life, without ambition, without avarice, in the continual expectation of death." Desiring to imitate Jesus' poverty of spirit, in his spirit of zeal and charity, Pascal said if God allowed him to recover from his illness, he would be resolved to have no other employment or occupation for the rest of my life than the service of the poor. Louis XIV suppressed the Jansenist movement at Port Royal in 1661. In response, Pascal wrote one of his final works, Écrit sur la signature du formulaire, writ on the signing of the form, exhorting the Jansenists not to give in. Later that year, his sister Jacqueline died, which convinced Pascal to cease his polemics on Jansenism. Pascal's last major achievement, returning to his mechanical genius, was inaugurating perhaps the first bus line, the Carrosses et Cinq Sols, moving passengers within Paris in a carriage with many seats. Pascal also designated the operation principles which were later used to plan public transportation. The carriages had a fixed route, fixed price, and left even if there were no passengers. It is widely considered that the idea of public transportation was well ahead of time. The lines were not commercially successful, and the last one closed by 1675. In 1662, Pascal's illness became more violent, and his emotional condition had severely worsened since his sister's death. Aware that his health was fading quickly, he sought a move to the hospital for incurable diseases, but his doctors declared that he was too unstable to be carried. In Paris on the 18th of August, 1662, Pascal went into convulsions and received extreme unction. He died the next morning, his last words being "May God never abandon me," and was buried in the cemetery of Saint-Étienne-du-Mont. An autopsy performed after his death revealed grave problems with his stomach and other organs of his abdomen, along with damage to his brain. Despite the autopsy, the cause of his poor health was never precisely determined, though speculation focuses on tuberculosis, stomach cancer, or a combination of the two. The headaches which affected Pascal are generally attributed to his brain lesion. Legacy. One of the universities of Clermont-Ferrand, France, Université Blaise Pascal, is named after him. Établissement scolaire français Blaise Pascal in Lubumbashi, Democratic Republic of the Congo, is named after Pascal. The 1969 Eric Romer film My Night at Maud's is based on the work of Pascal. Roberto Rossellini directed a filmed biopic, Blaise Pascal, which originally aired on Italian television in 1971. Pascal was a subject of the first edition of the 1984 BBC Two documentary, Sea of Faith, presented by Don Cupid. The chameleon in the film Tangled is named for Pascal. A programming language is named for Pascal. In 2014, NVIDIA announced its new Pascal microarchitecture, which is named for Pascal. The first graphics cards featuring Pascal were released in 2016. The 2017 game Naya, Automata has multiple characters named after famous philosophers. One of these is a sentient pacifistic machine named Pascal, who serves as a major supporting character. Pascal creates a village for machines to live peacefully with the androids they are at war with, and acts as a parental figure for other machines trying to adapt to their newly found individuality. The otter in the Animal Crossing series is named for Pascal. Minor planet 4500 Pascal is named in his honor. Pope Paul VI, in encyclical Popularum Progressio, issued in 1967, quotes Pascal's Pensees. True humanism points the way toward God and acknowledges the task to which we are called, the task which offers us the real meaning of human life. Man is not the ultimate measure of man. Man becomes truly man only by passing beyond himself. In the words of Pascal, man infinitely surpasses man. In 2023, Pope Francis released an apostolic letter, Sublimitas et Miseria Hominis, dedicated to Blaise Pascal, in commemoration of the 4th centenary of his birth. Works: 1 Essai pour les coniques, Essay on Conics, 1639. 2 Expériences nouvelles touchant la vie, New Experiments with the Vacuum, 1647. 3 Récit de la grande expérience de l'équilibre des liqueurs, Account of the Great Experiment on Equilibrium in Liquids, 1648. 4 Traité du triangle arithmétique, Treatise on the arithmetical triangle, written c. 1654, Papa 1665. 5 Lettres Provinciales, the Provincial Letters, 1656-57. 6 De l'Esprit Géométrique, on the Geometrical Spirit, 1657 or 1658. 7 Écrit sur la signature du formulaire, 1661. 8 Pensees, Thoughts, Incomplete at Death, Papa 1670. 9 Discourse on the Passion of Love. 10 On the Conversion of the Sinner. See also 1 Expected Value, 2 Gambler's Ruin, 3 Pascal's Barrel, 4 Pascal Distribution, 5 Pascal's Mugging, 6 Pascal's Pyramid, 7 Pascal's Simplex, 8 Problem of Points, 9 Scientific Revolution, 10 List of Pioneers in Computer Science, 11 List of Works by Eugene Guillaume. References.